The first shot fired inside the cafe did not sound like war. It sounded wrong, too sharp for the room, too loud for the size of the space. A sound that didn't belong among cups and cutlery and the faint hiss of a coffee machine struggling to stay warm. It snapped the air in half. Conversation died mid-syllable. A laugh cut off without finishing itself. A spoon slipped from someone's hand and struck the tile, spinning once before settling on its side. No one screamed. That came later. For now, there was only stillness, thick and suffocating, like the room had inhaled and forgotten how to breathe out. At the center of it all stood a man in uniform, boots planted wide, rifle half raised, as if he himself hadn't expected the shot to go off. His finger hovered near the trigger, trembling, not from cold but from something worse. His eyes darted around the cafe, searching for a reaction that would justify what he'd just done. The wall behind him bore the mark. A clean, ugly hole where plaster had exploded outward. Dust drifted slowly through the air, catching the light from the windows like pale snow. No one moves. His voice came out too loud, too fast, cracking at the end. No one did. People sat frozen in their chairs, hands raised halfway in useless gestures of protection. A man at the counter still held a folded newspaper, his thumb marking a place he would never return to. A woman near the window clutched her purse to her chest like it might stop bullets if it came to that. Behind the man with the rifle, two more soldiers stood guard at the door. One of them swallowed hard. The other kept his eyes locked on the floor. Outside, engines idled. The low, patient rumble of armored vehicles seeped through the cafe walls, vibrating through tabletops and into bones. Somewhere far away, too far to see but close enough to feel, something heavy shifted position. Tracks grinding, metal adjusting its weight. The war was very close. The cafe was very small. It had never been important. A narrow room, 6 tables, 1 counter, a chalkboard menu written in looping handwriting that hadn't changed in years. Coffee that tasted burned no matter how early you came. Chairs that wobbled unless you found the right angle. The kind of place people used because it was there. The kind of place no one would remember if it vanished overnight. Behind the counter stood the waitress. She had been pouring coffee when the shot went off. The stream had stopped mid-air, a thin brown ribbon frozen in time before dripping messily onto the saucer. The pot was still warm in her hand. Steam curled lazily upward, unaware of the rifle now pointed at the room. She didn't look at the gun. She didn't look at the soldier. She looked at the child. He sat at the second table by the window, legs dangling, heels swinging gently back and forth as if this were any other morning. His cup sat in front of him, both hands wrapped around it, fingers too small to reach all the way around the ceramic. His mother's grip on his wrist was tight, too tight. Her knuckles had gone white, skin stretched thin over bone. Her breath came shallow and uneven, every inhale a quiet plea that he would stay still. He didn't. He leaned forward in his chair. It wasn't defiance. It wasn't fear. It was curiosity. His eyes slid past the man with the rifle as if he were furniture, past the boots and the uniforms and the noise outside. His gaze settled on the waitress. She met his eyes without surprise, without urgency, without asking why. For a moment, something invisible shifted in the room. Not sound, not movement, pressure. The soldier followed the child's line of sight and let out a short, humorless laugh. "What?" he said, nudging the barrel of his rifle in her direction. "You think the girl's going to save you?" His words echoed off the walls, bouncing back emptier than they'd left. The waitress set the coffee pot down. The sound it made was barely audible. Ceramic touching wood. Ordinary, almost tender, but the child straightened. His mother gasped and tugged at his arm, whispering his name like it might anchor him to the chair. Her lips moved faster than sound, prayers tumbling over each other in a language older than the war outside. The child ignored her. He raised his arm, his finger extended, not toward the soldier, toward the waitress. The room felt smaller. The air thickened, heavy in the lungs. Even the engines outside seemed to dull, as if listening. The waitress did not move. The child held his arm steady, and he spoke. One word. It wasn't loud. It didn't echo, but it didn't belong there. It wasn't a child's word. It wasn't a local word. It wasn't a word meant for voices that young. It carried weight, history, finality. A word that had ended conversations behind closed doors. A word that had emptied rooms full of powerful men. A word that had not been spoken out loud in years. The waitress closed her eyes, just for a breath. When she opened them again, the soldier by the door took a step backward without realizing he'd moved. His heel caught on the edge of the mat. He steadied himself, heart racing, confused by his own body's betrayal. The man with the rifle felt his mouth go dry. His finger tightened on the trigger, then loosened, then tightened again. His breathing grew shallow, fast, as if his chest had forgotten the correct rhythm. "What did you just say?" he snapped. Not to the child, to the room. No one answered. The child lowered his arm. He leaned back in his chair and took a careful sip from his cup. The liquid was still warm. He smiled, small, certain, like someone who knew how this would end. The waitress stepped out from behind the counter. Her apron brushed softly against her legs. Her shoes made no sound on the tile. She moved the way water moves when it has already chosen its path. She stopped halfway between the counter and the nearest table. She did not look at the soldiers. She did not look at the guns. She looked at the child. "Finish your drink," she said. Her voice was calm, gentle, almost kind. The mother stared at her in disbelief. Fear flared into anger, sharp and desperate. "What are you doing?" she hissed under her breath. The soldier laughed again, louder this time. Relief twisted into mockery as his fear tried to crawl back into its hiding place. "You've got 10 seconds, he said, raising the rifle higher. "All of you." Outside, the engines shifted. Something heavy repositioned itself. Inside, the child lifted his cup with both hands. The waitress reached into her apron pocket, and the radio on the soldier's shoulder crackled. Static just for a moment. Then a voice. Clear, measured, unmistakable. A voice that did not belong to any channel still in use. The soldier froze. The man with the rifle went pale. The voice spoke again. Every soldier in the room recognized it at the same time. Years of training screamed in their heads. Protocol, silence, obedience. The rifle slipped from the man's hands and clattered to the floor. No one bent to pick it up. The waitress still hadn't turned around. She removed a small metal object from her pocket and placed it gently on the nearest table. It was old, unmarked, perfectly clean. The radio voice spoke once more. The man with the rifle staggered back like he'd been struck. Outside the cafe, phones began to ring. Phones that had been disconnected. Lines that had been declared dead. Frequencies buried beneath layers of encryption and silence. Across checkpoints, across borders, across command centers built to withstand bombs, men and women stopped mid-sentence and listened. Inside the cafe, the child set his cup down. The waitress finally turned her head. Just enough. The war had not ended yet, but it had just been told to sit down, and no one in the room understood why. No one moved for a long time, not because they were ordered to, not because a gun was pointed at them, because the room no longer belonged to them. The radio on the soldier's shoulder went silent again, as if it had said everything it needed to say. The last word hung in the air, invisible but heavy, pressing down on chests and minds alike. The waitress stood where she was, hands relaxed at her sides. She did not look at the soldiers. She did not look at the weapon on the floor. She watched the child finish his drink. The man who had dropped the rifle stared at the radio as though it might bite him. His mouth opened once, then closed again. Whatever he had planned to say refused to come out. The soldier nearest the door swallowed hard. "Sir," he began, then stopped. He wasn't sure who he was speaking to anymore. Outside, the engines did not shut off, but they changed. The idle shifted, subtle but unmistakable, like a large animal repositioning itself after being startled. Orders were being reconsidered. Not canceled, just delayed. Delay was dangerous. The man who had fired the shot finally bent down and retrieved his rifle. His movements were slower now, deliberate, as if speed itself had become suspicious. He cradled the weapon close to his chest instead of aiming it. "This doesn't change anything," he said too loudly. "You don't know what you heard." No one responded. The waitress took a step back toward the counter. That was all it took. The man flinched, not because she moved, but because she was leaving. "Hey," he snapped, trying to reclaim authority with volume. "You, stay where you are." She stopped, not abruptly, not defiantly. She turned just enough to acknowledge the sound of his voice. Her eyes met his, not with challenge, not with fear, but with something colder. Assessment. She said nothing. The silence stretched. The soldier felt his grip tighten around the rifle. He didn't know why his palms were sweating. He didn't know why his heartbeat felt out of sync with his breathing. He had walked through worse places than this. Louder places. Bloodier places, but none of them had ever gone quiet like this. "You heard me," he said. The waitress tilted her head slightly, not in confusion, in consideration. Then she turned back to the counter and continued walking. The soldier's jaw clenched. He looked to the others, expecting support, agreement, something. What he found instead were two men who would not meet his eyes. "Secure the room," he barked, sharper now. "Check everyone." No one moved. He took a step forward, anger pushing against fear. "I said." The child's chair scraped softly against the floor. The sound was small. It landed like a hammer. The waitress stopped again. This time, she turned fully. Her gaze went to the child, not the soldiers. "Yes," she said. The child looked at the small metal object on the table, the one she had placed there earlier. His brow furrowed slightly, like he was thinking through something too complicated to explain. "Can I keep it?" he asked. The mother inhaled sharply. The soldier laughed again, too fast, too loud. "No," he said immediately. "You can't keep anything." The waitress didn't look at him. She reached out, and slid the object across the table toward the child. "Put it back when you're done," she said. The child nodded, solemn. He picked it up carefully, turning it over in his hands like a puzzle piece he already understood. The soldier felt something break. He raised his rifle. The click of the safety coming off was loud in the quiet room. The mother screamed. The waitress did not move. She did not raise her hands. She did not speak. She simply looked at the man, not with anger, not with warning, with expectation. The man froze. His finger rested on the trigger. Every instinct screamed at him to pull it, to reassert control, to end whatever this was before it made him look weak. But his body refused. His arms felt heavy. His vision tunneled. Sweat rolled down his spine despite the cool air. Behind him, the radio crackled again. This time, it wasn't a command. It was a question. Short, direct. The voice spoke his name, not his rank. His name. No one in this region was supposed to know it. The rifle slipped from his hands for the second time. It hit the floor harder this time. The waitress exhaled quietly. That was all. The soldiers backed away from the tables, slow and unsure, weapons lowered without being told. One of them moved to the door and opened it just enough to look outside. What he saw made him step back immediately. The vehicles were still there, but their turrets were no longer pointed at the building. Across the street, other soldiers stood with hands pressed to their earpieces, faces pale, listening to orders that made no sense yet could not be questioned. Inside the cafe, people began to breathe again, quietly, carefully, like sound itself might be dangerous. The waitress returned behind the counter. She picked up the coffee pot. The liquid was still warm. She poured into a clean cup and set it down on the counter, steam rising in a thin, steady line. "Anyone else?" she asked. No one answered. The soldiers exchanged looks. This was wrong. This was deeply, fundamentally wrong. And wrong things needed to be corrected. The man in charge, if he was still in charge, straightened his jacket, forcing his hands to stop shaking. He reached for his radio, pressing the button with more force than necessary. "Command," he said, requesting clarification. The reply came instantly. Too instantly. "You are to disengage," the voice said. "Stand by for further instructions." Disengage. He stared at the radio. "Sir," he said carefully, "we have civilians." "Stand by," the voice repeated. The channel went dead. The man's face hardened. This wasn't protocol. This was interference. Someone was manipulating the line. Someone who shouldn't be able to. He looked at the waitress. Really looked at her this time. Her hair was tied back simply. No duality. No visible markings. Her hands were steady as she wiped down the counter, movements efficient, practiced. The hands of someone who worked long hours. Someone invisible by design. Someone underestimated her entire life. "Who are you?" he demanded. She didn't answer. She set the cloth down neatly. The child slid the metal object back across the table toward her. She picked it up and returned it to her pocket without looking. Outside, the engines shut off. One by one, the silence that followed was louder than the gunshot had been. The man felt something cold settle in his stomach. Ending a standoff was one thing. Stopping an operation this size without violence was impossible. Unless someone had just broken a rule so old no one remembered it existed. His radio crackled again. A different voice this time. Higher up. More careful. "You are to withdraw," the voice said. Immediately. The man swallowed. "And the cafe?" he asked. A pause. "Leave it," the voice said. The waitress turned her head slightly. Not enough to be obvious. Enough to hear. The soldiers began backing toward the door. Slowly, like men leaving a room they didn't understand and didn't want to anger. No one stopped them. No one thanked her. No one dared. As the last soldier reached the doorway, the man in charge hesitated. He looked back at the waitress one final time. "This isn't over," he said. She met his eyes. For the first time, there was something there. Not fear, not threat, recognition. He left. The door closed behind them.